Okay, what if everything we think we know about disease is, well, wrong? Today, we are diving deep into a theory that asks that exact question: New German medicine. It offers a totally different perspective from what you might be used to, and we're going to break down its core principles, the 5 biological laws, to really understand this radical view on health and illness. And this quote, man, it gets right to the heart of the whole theory. It suggests that what we call illness isn't some mistake or a body malfunctioning. Nope. Instead, it's a purposeful, significant, special biological program that was actually designed by nature. So, how in the world does a framework like that actually work? Let's get into it. So, here's our game plan to unpack this. We're going to start with that core premise, rethinking what disease even is. Then, we'll walk through the 5 biological laws, one by one, and see how they build on each other, from the initial shock that kicks everything off, all the way to the theory's ultimate conclusion. All right, first up, let's tackle that huge fundamental concept. This theory really asks you to do a complete 180 in your thinking, to stop seeing disease as a dysfunction that needs to be fought, and start seeing it as a program that has a very specific biological meaning. So the theory pretty much scraps the word disease and replaces it with SBP, which stands for Significant Special Biological Program. And it's defined as nature's way of helping a person deal with some kind of crazy distress. But here is the absolute key. It's not just in your head. It's a 3-part program that's said to run at the exact same time in your psyche, in your brain, and in a specific organ that corresponds to the issue. So what kicks one of these programs off in the first place? What's the trigger? Well, that brings us right to the first biological law, which points to a very, very specific kind of event. And that trigger is called a Hamer syndrome, or DHS for short. Now, this isn't your everyday stress, not by a long shot. It's defined by 3 very specific things. 1, it's a really intense, dramatic shock. 2, you totally didn't see it coming. And 3, you experience it all alone, in isolation. According to the theory, an event that checks all 3 of those boxes is what launches every single one of these programs. And this is how it all supposedly happens on those 3 levels. Boom, all at once. First, the psyche gets hit with the emotional shock. At that exact same moment, the brain gets a physical impact, what the theory calls a hammer heard. And in that same instant, a specific organ is said to fire up its special biological program. Now, this is where the theory claims you can actually see the physical evidence. It suggests that the shock's impact on the brain is visible on a CT scan, and it looks like these sharp, target-like rings they call a hammer heard. And this is critical. The exact location of this heard in the brain is believed to link up directly with the specific type of psychological conflict you experienced. Okay, let's move on to the second law and see how this all progresses. This one describes a really predictable 2-phase pattern that every single SBP is said to follow. And there's a big condition, of course. The original conflict has to be resolved. This timeline here maps out the whole journey beautifully. You start at normatonia, that's just our normal balanced day-night rhythm. Then wham, the DHS hits. That throws you into the conflict active phase, a state of constant stress. Once you figure out that conflict, you enter the healing phase, which has this really dramatic peak called the epicrisis, before you finally get back to normal. And the difference between these 2 phases, it is night and day. The conflict active phase is called the cold phase, and it's full of classic stress symptoms, right? Cold hands, can't sleep, no appetite. But the healing phase is the total opposite. It's the warm phase. Think fatigue, fever, warm skin, and your appetite coming back. They're presented as 2 sides of the very same biological coin. Okay, now we are getting into the real nuts and bolts, the biological blueprint. The 3rd and 4th laws try to explain these deep, systematic rules that run the show, and these rules are apparently based on our own evolutionary journey as humans. Now, the 3rd law proposes this incredibly predictable system based on our biology. It links how an organ reacts to the embryonic layer it first grew from. So as you can see in the table, tissues that come from the older parts of the brain, the endoderm and old mesoderm, they respond to a conflict by adding cells, which is what we call a tumor. But tissues from the newer parts of the brain do the opposite. They respond with cell loss or ulceration. The idea is that the body's reaction isn't random at all, it's hardwired. And the 4th law? Whoa, it completely flips the script on how we see microbes. In this view, microbes aren't the bad guys causing disease.
There are little helpers that only get activated during the healing phase. The oldest microbes, like fungi, are said to be the demolition crew. They break down the tumors that grew during the conflict. And the newer microbes, like bacteria, are the construction crew. They help rebuild the tissues that broke down. They're basically presented as our partners in recovery.
And that brings us to the fifth law, which is really the grand finale. It's the part that ties everything we've talked about together, offering a final, really profound thought on what illness actually is. So this is it, the ultimate takeaway of the whole theory. The fifth law basically says that every single SVP, everything we have ever called a disease, is a meaningful piece of a much larger, coherent biological system. From this point of view, nature doesn't mess up. It just runs purposeful programs. And that leaves us with a pretty provocative question to chew on, doesn't it? This whole framework really challenges us to ask ourselves, what if every symptom, every fever, every single thing we label as an illness actually has a purpose?